I want to tell you about Naomi because what she went through, it wasn't just betrayal, it was psychological warfare. Naomi had been with Eric for 4.5 years. They started dating in one of those classic modern office romances, the kind HR loves to pretend never happens. She worked in the content department of a mid-sized marketing agency. He was one of those data guys, quiet, analytical, always in his spreadsheets. Not traditionally hot, but there was something about the way he listened. The way he'd remember weird details she mentioned once in passing. How he'd refill her coffee without asking when she was slammed with campaign deadlines. How he'd compliment her presentations, but not in that performative way. He made her feel seen. Naomi was hesitant at first. She'd just gotten out of a messy breakup and wasn't sure she wanted to risk mixing her work life with her personal life. But Eric was patient, persistent in a respectful way. They started hanging out after work, doing lunch runs together, sharing playlists. And then one night, after a long pitch meeting and too much wine at a team dinner, he kissed her. She told me it just felt right. And honestly, for a while, it was. They kept it private at first, no PDA in the office, no flirty Slack messages, just subtle glances across cubicles. Then came the soft launch. A weekend trip to Asheville, a mutual post from a brewery tagged with #work friends, except everyone knew. By the 1 year mark, they'd moved in together, split rent on a loft with exposed brick and a broken heater. They cooked together, argued about Spotify playlists, bickered over how to fold towels. It was domestic bliss in its early form since, but then things started shifting. And the funny thing about red flags is you rarely see them while they're waving, especially when you're busy defending them. The first thing Naomi noticed was Brenna. Now, Brenna worked in HR. She was one of those aggressively friendly types, always organizing fun Fridays and walking around the office barefoot like it was Coachella. The kind of person who posts motivational quotes and hot girl walks every morning, but has a spreadsheet of passive aggressive comments in her brain. Naomi had never had an issue with her, not until she started noticing how often Brenna was around Eric. Not in a they have to collaborate way, more like she was always finding a reason to linger, sitting at his desk even when she didn't need to, laughing a little too hard at his jokes, dropping off extra cupcakes at his office on his birthday, even though she knew Naomi had baked an entire cake for him at home. But Naomi brushed it off because Eric never gave her a reason not to trust him. Until he did. It started with the text. Late night messages that he'd answer quietly and turn his phone face down after. The kind where he'd glance at the screen, smirk, type fast, and then act like it was nothing. When Naomi asked, he'd shrug and say, "Just Brenna. She's going through a lot right now." This "a lot" apparently went on for nearly a year. And Naomi still gave him grace. Even when he started getting cagey about his phone. Even when he suddenly had after-hours meetings or team dinners he never used to have. Even when he forgot their anniversary dinner and instead of apologizing told her, I'm bad with dates." But the breaking point came 6 months ago. They were planning a weekend getaway, something quiet, coastal, just the two of them. Naomi was exhausted. She'd just wrapped a campaign that nearly gave her ulcers. She was looking forward to wine by the ocean, long walks, no phones. She went to grab his jacket from the laundry room, the one he always wore on trips, and his phone buzzed in the pocket. She didn't mean to snoop, but it lit up. A text from Brenna. "I can't stop thinking about last night." Naomi said everything inside her just stilled. Her hands, her breath. Time slowed down. She didn't confront him, not yet. She opened the messages. And what she found was overwhelming. A full-blown emotional affair, probably physical. The text stretched back months. Flirty banter, inside jokes Naomi had never heard. Brenna in his hoodie, selfies at Naomi's apartment while she was out of town. Comments like, "It's different with you. You really understand me." One message even read, "I wish I'd met you before, Naomi." That line still makes me nauseous. Naomi took screenshots, all of them, forwarded them to her own email, then calmly folded the jacket, put the phone back in the pocket, and left the laundry room. They still went on the trip because she needed to see if he'd lie to her face. And spoiler alert, he did, effortlessly. He held her hand, kissed her forehead, told her she looked beautiful in the morning light, played that same dumb indie playlist he always did. They had dinner by the ocean, wine by the fire. He even posted a blurry photo of the waves with a caption like, "Resetting with my favorite person." She told me she wanted to scream, but instead she waited until their last night. They were sitting by the fire pit, sipping wine. Naomi looked at him and asked, "Do you love me?" He said yes, instantly. No hesitation. And then she asked, "Then tell me why you're in love with Brenna." He froze. Completely. Like a hard drive crashing mid-download. He stammered, denied, claimed it was a misinterpretation, that they were just friends, that Brenna was in a vulnerable place and maybe leaned too much on him emotionally. Naomi said nothing. She pulled out her phone and read the text about last night. And you want to know his first response? "Why were you looking through my phone? That's a serious breach of trust." Yep, that was his takeaway. He tried to moral high ground his way out of cheating. Then he said, "I didn't sleep with her, okay? I thought about it, but I didn't do it." Naomi told me that was the final blow. The "I thought about it" part. She packed her bag and left the hotel at midnight. Didn't even check out. She drove 3 hours in silence and went straight to her sister's place. Cried for 2 days straight. Didn't answer his calls. Didn't respond to his, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It was just texting. It didn't mean anything." Because here's the thing. It meant everything. It meant he shared parts of himself that should have been reserved for her. It meant he looked her in the eyes and lied. Repeatedly. But Eric didn't stop. Oh no, he escalated. He sent letters, long handwritten letters about how he was afraid of commitment and pushed her away because she got too close. He showed up at her building, left flowers, even got a mutual friend to call Naomi and tell her Eric was in therapy now. And then he pulled the worst move of all. He tried to get ahead of the story, told coworkers Naomi had trust issues, that she was emotionally unstable, that she'd been jealous of his friendships for years. He spun a version of events where she was the problem. But Naomi, she stayed quiet. Instead, she emailed HR, attached the screenshots, the photos, the messages where Brenna literally said, "Do you think she suspects anything?" 2 weeks later, Brenna was let go. Eric tried to claim it was unfair, that she shouldn't lose her job over harmless texts. But let me tell you something, when your harmless texts include selfies in someone else's bed while their girlfriend is away, that's not harmless. Naomi didn't do it out of spite. She didn't need revenge. She just needed closure. Eric moved out 3 weeks later, blocked on everything. He still tries, though. Recently, he posted a photo of a journal and a cup of tea with the caption, "Healing takes time. Some chapters end without closure." I laughed when Naomi showed me. He's not healing, he's hiding. Behind curated vulnerability, behind sad boy captions and moody filters. Because the truth, he lost someone who actually loved him. Naomi's doing better now. She's got her own apartment, started journaling, seeing someone new, slowly. She told me she's taking things at her own pace. And the best part? The new guy? He's allergic to manipulation. The first time Naomi mentioned Brenna, he said, "If I ever make you feel second place to anyone, walk away. You don't owe me understanding when I'm being shady." Imagine that. A man who owns his behavior.